Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fadwa Wazwaz, and I wanted to explore today the concept of gratitude. And it has to deal with the fact that at times we confuse gratitude with greed or gratitude with entitlement. And we don't see it because we understand gratitude in a way that's actually harmful for us and harmful for others. If you just do a simple search on Google, just say, how many people practice gratitude, for example. It gives you sometimes 63%, and I did like a more advanced research. Some said 80%, some said 70%, but pretty much the message was that most people are grateful. And yet the Quran says a different message, and a different verse tells us in the Quran that that's not actually the case. If we go to the Quran, I don't want to go into depth, but if you go about gratitude, the percentage of people that are gratitude, and you go on, for example, YouTube and just type gratitude, you'll find millions upon millions followers following seminars, articles, works on gratitude. And you would think that, again, all this gratitude, given the verse that tells us, if you are grateful, I will give you more. It says here, not this one. Here. This is in chapter 14. Remember, Sustainer made this promise. If you are grateful to me, I shall most certainly give you more and more. If you're ungrateful, verily my chastisement will be severe indeed. So everybody's practicing gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. But they're looking at it as give me more, give me more, give me more, more, more. Looking at it as greed. So they're not looking at it as the correct understanding of what gratitude means. And sometimes for us to understand something, we need to look at it on ground zero, and then how it's, like when you put a seed in the dirt, it springs. Because sometimes, if you ever see, like sometimes these memes, they show you like a plant where you see it like it's all great on top of the ground. It's all great, but there's nothing inside the ground, like zero. And then you see another plant, it has very little above the ground, but there's lots of roots and lots of healthy stuff underneath the ground. So sometimes to understand gratitude, instead of focusing on out here, like what's above the ground, like this is the ground, let's look underneath the ground. Let's look at those who understand gratitude at ground zero, and then look down. So we're going to go to Joseph of Han and Peace and the lesson on gratitude. And he says, this is in chapter 12. I'm looking at verse 38. Again, I recommend using more than one translation if you don't speak Arabic. And there's also commentaries on the Quran that gives you more in-depth understanding of the verse. And I follow the ways of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now look at what he says next. And never could we attribute, word attribute is emphasized here, any partners whatever to Allah. That comes of the grace of Allah to us and to mankind. Yet most men are not grateful. So he's telling us here two things. One, he's telling us most people are not grateful. And you see this, in fact, more than one places in the Quran. But he's also given us the definition of gratitude. The definition of gratitude is to attribute whatever came out of the grace of God to you and to mankind, to God. So you won't say something like, my dad is a genius, If you're grateful, then you would say, the verse, if you fear Allah, God teaches you. You attribute what you learn to God. But if you're deluded, you say, my dad is a genius. But that's not what Joseph said. He doesn't say, my fathers are the most pious and my grandfathers are the... He doesn't even attribute it to his prophet Abraham or Isaac or Jacob, upon them peace. He says, I follow the ways of my fathers. What did they teach him? What was the blueprint they gave him? Never could we attribute any partners, whatever, to Allah. That comes of the grace of Allah to us and to mankind, but most men are ungrateful to Allah. Remember I said when Prophet Moses, upon him peace, had to go to the land of the Midian, God placed before him 2 women. Because if you are grateful, again, I talked about it there, about faith. I looked at it from the position of, his moral strength. Reflect on it now from gratitude. God gave him strength. And he comes to the well. And here he sees 2 women near the well. So God places these 2 women. Now, if he's grateful, he would attribute that strength that he had to God, right? And he would recognize the honor that God gave him with that strength to help the 2 women who are deprived of that strength, for example. Okay, that's called gratitude. And a better way of looking at it is in the hadith or the saying of Prophet Muhammad, upon him peace and blessings. He says, whoever sees a person afflicted and say, all praise is due to Allah who has saved me from that which he has afflicted you with, and blessed me greatly over many of those he has created. Now, this is a silent. Who are you saying this to your ego? You're not saying it to the person like to make them feel like I'm better than you. You're saying it to your ego, because how are you looking at it? You're thinking that God gave you a favor, trusted you, and honored you to help the person who's afflicted. So in the case of Moses, for example, and he saw the 2 women, he recognized the strength that he had, and he recognized, again, the honor that he had, which is to help those 2 women. That's called gratitude. I mentioned in the story of Prophet Muhammad, upon him peace and blessings, when he goes into Medina. Again, God places 2 orphans before him. Now here he had influence. What is the thing about orphans? That they have no influence. They're unprotected. You could easily make deals with whoever and take away their rights. Or they could be so influenced by your persona, like you're such a great person, you've got your celebrity, that to try to please you, because that's what it is they're very impressionable. You're an orphan, you want to belong, you want to be part of the the movement, and you're trying to give whatever you have just so that you can be part of it, because you're unprotected. If you look at it, I can go more in depth, but I just want to keep it short. But he insists on giving them their full right. Again, he saw individuals, even though in the past he himself was an orphan, but he saw individuals who were afflicted, they're orphans. And he saw, now he's in a state of, a position of power, then that he has now a movement that is budding, that is growing. And now before him are two orphans. He could have, said, forget the orphans, just give me what they have. Like they go in and they're looking at Gaza and they're thinking, what can I take? What resources I could take? What can I grab? And this is how they're looking at it. No one's there to protect these people, so we can just, take whatever we want and make deals without even taking their say into consideration. No, but he recognizes, again, they're in a position of, they're orphans. God put him in a position where now he has people around him that can protect him. Still, even though he had to flee persecution, he still has a following in Medina. And so he figures that, he sees his gratitude is expressed in that he goes ahead and gives them their rights, treats them, with the full rights that's, due to them. But he sends a message again about the duty and obligations that come with people of influence. How many of us see it as a duty and the responsibilities? We want to be empowered, but at the same time, the heck with people in Gaza. We don't care about the duty that comes out of being in power for the people in Gaza, or the people who are occupied, or the people who are, we don't care about all of those duties and responsibilities. We're willing to make deal and crush these people. We see, and then we go on stage and we preach gratitude. Literally, that's what they do. After making deals, crushing people in Gaza, crushing people in the West Bank, crushing people in Palestine, then they go on stage and they start giving lessons on gratitude. There's no attribution to where they got what they got. And then there's no cognition of the responsibilities and duties that comes with having what you have. The third case scenario is, again, there's many throughout the Quran, but the third case scenario is the two companions of the prison. So God sends to Prophet Joseph something to, excuse me. He sends two companions in prison. Now here, Joseph lets us know the blessings that came to him. He attributes it to God. Just like Prophet Muhammad attributed to God, Moses attributes it to God. So here he's seeing two people who are in prison that don't have that blessing of faith. And how does he respond with that blessing? He's in prison, not outside prison, he's in prison. So he responds by educating those who don't have that knowledge. A part of that also that they say, like when God wants to bring, something that's in your heart that's already there, wants to bring it up. Why? Because Joseph is going to be facing a coming trial. And so those two companions are meant to test Joseph and to also prepare him for the coming trial. This is how part of gratitude is God also increases you in faith. And you see it right there in the verse. So he has already faith. You see that? I follow the ways, the blueprint, you might say, of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what is the blueprint they gave him? Don't attribute any partner to Allah. Meaning whatever comes out of the grace of Allah to you and to mankind, don't attribute it to anyone other than God. Okay, this is very essential because many people get it wrong. And so he proceeds to those two companions of prison because he has no wealth, he has no influence, but he has knowledge. He doesn't say, you're ungrateful, you're sad, what did you do to get here? He doesn't say that, but he figures that this is the blueprint I was given. It came out of the grace of God. So just like Moses offered his strength, and Prophet Muhammad, upon him peace and blessings, offered again his influence to help, with the orphans. And we see here again, he's offering his knowledge to the two people in the prison. So it says, "O my two companions of prison, I ask you, are many lords differing among themselves better, or the one Allah supreme and irresistible?" And we already saw like these two, the red party and the blue party, differing, and we watched it on live, right? Now imagine add in Putin and add in China and add in other power, superpower, multi-power world. We see it, and we're always on edge, worried about a world war 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and who knows if we'll be alive after that. But again, reflect on that question because it is an important question to reflect on. If not him, you worship nothing but names which you have named, you and your fathers, for which Allah had sent down no authority. The command is for none but Allah. He had commanded that you worship none but him. That is the right religion, but most men understand not. O my two companions of the prisons, as for one of you, he will pour out wine for his Lord to drink. And as for the other, he will hang from the cross, and the birds will eat from his head. So had been decreed the matter there, whereof you twain do inquire. So first before he even interprets the dream, he fulfills the duty of this knowledge. He had received a blueprint, and he shares that with them because that's part of being grateful. It's part of being grateful is to recognize the duty and responsibility you have and to attribute what you have to God. Now, and so it says, and of the two, the one whom he considered about to be saved, because he didn't tell which one is going to be. He just told them the interpretation. But he said, mention me to thy Lord. But Satan made him forget to mention him to his Lord, and Joseph lingered in prison a few more years. So this is the second trial that he was going to face from prison. He's being trained to rely solely on God. So these two men came to bring the aha moment it's already in his heart. It's already embedded in his soul. But bring it to light to prepare him for the journey ahead. This is how God cultivates a person's soul. This is how God brings that light forth. So he already has this knowledge. It's already embedded knowledge within him. But he brings these two men to bring it to light so that when he's about, if there's, like they say, any decree or any like lingering or any residue where you're relying on other than God, God first removes it from your heart. But he brings it to your conscience, like, there's still some reliance on other than me there. And so this question and answer session, because he doesn't rationalize, he's not answering his own question. Notice he sends people to ask him questions, but he's preparing him for the journey. So if we go up here, what happens to Joseph? He attributes everything, again, all his knowledge to God. He was grateful. This lingering of where he relied on other than God, that residue still because you are influenced by the society you have. So you assume, or it has some little impact, is removed. But he's still grateful. He's still following that blueprint of gratitude. And because he fulfilled, meaning that he attributed what he received to God, then God increased him in honor. He went from being in prison to now being where? Person in charge of the treasury. And he was able not just to say, count his blessings, look how much money I got, I'm the treasurer, but to fulfill the responsibility and the duty, which is there was a coming famine, and he came up with a strategy on how to help people deal with the famine. Goes back into here. So he was grateful. He attributed what he received to God. And because he attributed what he received to God, out of that gratitude, God removed that little residue and prepared him for the journey to increase in honor. Now he's not speaking to two companions in prison, but he's speaking actually to an entire crowd. And this didn't come to him through, they say sometimes, look at how people get to that station. It didn't come to him through like this. It didn't come to like self-interest or networking, or I kiss up to this sheikh and I kiss up to this person, I say nice. It didn't come through that. God is letting us know that it came. He didn't engage in this sort of like we're seeing, during, for example, the elections. This person praises you and that person praises you, but there's a self-interest. There's a self-interest. It didn't come through that. He wasn't, of course, seeking that. He wasn't seeking to be a treasurer here. He was just seeking to get out of prison because he was falsely accused, which is his right. But again, he's being trained to be solely relying on God. Because he was grateful, we see this gratitude right here. God removed this, and then he increased him in more. And that's a station of where you attribute things to God. You're now the treasurer, but you're also recognizing that comes with a responsibility, a duty to those who are afflicted. That you have been honored to help them. You have been honored to come up with a way to deal with this famine that's going to hit the community that could wipe out the entire country. So that was the honor. So if you are grateful, we saw his sign of gratitude, he attributed things to God, then I will give you more. So he was increased in station by God, with God, for God. Now what happens is at times, if we look at the verse underneath this, it says, and Moses added, and if you should ever deny the truth. Another way of saying this, again, if you look at different ways. And if you show ingratitude, you and all on earth together, yet Allah is free of all wrongs, worthy of all praise. If you look at, again, gratitude is give credit where credit is due. So ingratitude is to deny the truth. You're denying the truth that this came to you from God, from the grace of God. Your faith, intelligence, knowledge, it came from the grace of God. And if you deny, you and whoever lives on earth, all of you know that verily God is indeed sufficient ever to be praised. Now, how many, when they go on stage, are thinking of gratitude as, attributing the gifts to God? No one's really thinking about attributing the gifts to God. They're thinking about Give me more, give me more, give me more. They're thinking about the health benefits of it, about looking good by being grateful instead of looking sad. They're thinking about the image complex. That's what they're thinking about. Why is this important? Why is this important that we need to nurture gratitude? God is telling us here that if you're not grateful, like you don't attribute what you receive to him, that he's free of want, he's free of need. He's not like, doing this because he's in need of your praise. Everything praises God. He doesn't need your praise. Why? What happens when we don't attribute the gifts and the blessings to God? So let's look at another verse. Maybe this will help bring it in. So this is chapter 18. Yesterday was Friday. Struggling with a really bad pain in my arms, so excuse me. And it says at the very around chapter 18, verse 34. I highlighted this. So this says, abundant was the produce this man had. Lots of blessings. He said to his companion in the course of a mutual argument, again, a companion, someone is put in your path. The course, and more wealth have I than you, and more honor and power in the following of men. So we talked about, again, Prophet Muhammad upon him, peace and blessing. He had a following. God placed before him 2 orphans. Notice how he responded to those 2 orphans, even though they wanted to, because, kids are kids, and so they're very impressionable. But they're orphans. They don't have, when you don't have influence, when you don't have protection, you can be easily give whatever you have just to be part of that movement, just to try to be involved. So he could have taken advantage, is what I'm trying to say. He could have looked at those 2 orphans and said, forget who their guardian is. They said, everybody can bear witness. They're giving me this for free. But he doesn't do that. And so here again, this man, he has lots of blessings. Blessing of following, blessing, of power, influence, not just a crowd, but that they have influence. They can influence policy. They can influence decisions. And he had a lot of gifts. He had an abundant produce. But he doesn't attribute it to God. He's counting it. He's focused on what he has. Because you see these speakers, they're like, focus on what you have, not what you don't have. And they're like, that's gratitude. That's not gratitude. That's you wanting to be on stage and to say whatever and people to clap for you. But that's not gratitude. The Quran is very clear. It doesn't appear like you or your father read the Quran or those around you, because they would have corrected you. And you would have told people on stage that you were wrong, and this is a correct understanding of gratitude. So here he's counting his blessings. He's focusing on what he has, not what he doesn't have. What does he focus on? More wealth have I than you, and more honor and power in the following of men. So he's very focused on what he has, and he's counting. He's doing the counting very well. He's very cognizant of the counting. You saw that with Alan Dershowitz. He stood up on stage. What did he say? Like, look at the power we have. I'm paraphrasing, but look at what wealth, and kind of similar to what he's saying. And another person got he with the ADL, I'm going to call his name Greenblatt something. I can't recall his first name, but he's part of the ADL group. He had a whole lesson on hope. And he's sitting here also praising the exact same line right here. Look at how much we have. Look at the power we have. Look at this, look at that. They're counting. They're doing a lot. They're counting very well. But are they attributing what they have to God? No. Are they seeing their responsibility and the duty they have with what they have to those who are deprived? No. Look at what they're doing in Gaza. Before October 7th, Gaza was occupied, West Bank was occupied. They have a duty. If you're occupying a country, you have a duty and a responsibility, and based on international law, to take care of the human rights and the full educational, health care of the individuals that you're occupying. If we look at international law, if we look at faith, you have to treat them the way you treat yourself and your people. Are they fulfilling those duties? Joseph, when he came up, you fulfilled the duty. He took on the famine and brainstormed a way to help the country deal with the famine. No, they're engineering a famine. They're not dealing with a natural famine that's hitting the Gaza. They're literally, with all of this counting that they're doing and focusing on what they have, we got power, we got influence, blah, blah. They're engineering a famine. So why do we need to be grateful? Because what happens when you're doing all the counting and you're focusing on what you have and you're deluding yourself and comprehending or understanding gratitude as greed? You want more, and you become totally not cognizant or blind or lack awareness of the duty and the responsibilities that come with what you have. What happens? God tells us here, he went into the garden in a state of mind unjust to his soul. Who's he unjust to? He's not unjust to God because he's harming his what? His soul. He's unjust to his soul because he disconnected the soul, imprisoned it, and he disconnected it from its creator. I deem not that this will ever perish. When you assume something came from you, then you start to think that you don't need God. You can keep, counting your blessings, and you do all of these snake oil treatments. You can keep getting more and more and more. Nor do I deem that the hour of judgment will ever come. Even if I am brought back to my Lord, I shall surely find there's something better in exchange. And you start to even think that, just the way you kind of made these deals with networking and you got yourself, what is the book? Dale, I think Carnegie, how to influence people, you learned all the tricks and ways of how to build a network that can build your following and build your rank. And so you start to, you start to become deluded. You're thinking you figured it all out. And so then God sends a trial to the individual and his entire garden is destroyed. It's like, since you figured it out, you don't need me, then go ahead. Let's see you then, come up with a garden similar. So what's gratitude? Gratitude is to attribute the gift to the giver. When we don't do that, notice how he looks at the other companion, mocks, ridicules, makes him feel less Again, this here is not about making the person like, you're afflicted, I am not afflicted, No, it's about recognizing the honor God has given you over those who are afflicted, and that you have to help them. So when this person sees that other person right in front of him, again, places him before there, he's trying to make him feel small. He's arrogating himself. He's promoting his superiority over the other person. I must be this chosen person because look at what I got. Look at the power I'm enjoying. And so the person is getting deluded. Doesn't see, oh, maybe, I should help, this individual with his garden. Do you need help with your garden? I have learned how to do a good garden, learned this knowledge. God taught it to me. Can I help you with your garden? We talked about, Imam Sha'rawi, when he says, a salih, a righteous person, he sees a well, it's covered up with dirt, rocks, residue, whatever. And one individual versus like the one he's a good person, but he's not a salih. He gets water for himself, and that's it. There's the corrupt person, which is he puts a lot of dirt that only he can take, but other people have no path to the watering place. So he denies people a path to the watering place, and he makes a difficult siege, blockade for them to grow. But the third person, they come in. This is the grateful person. The salih is a grateful person. They see this well, but they also see all of those that are not going to be able to reach the well, even if you remove the residue. There's people with, disability, people with issues, that are going to make it difficult, health issues or make it difficult for them to get to the well. So he doesn't just remove everything from the well, but he creates a path so that the water can reach those who are not able to reach the well. So he sees the afflicted. He sees that God gave him this knowledge, God gave him this insight, and he starts to brainstorm. He uses that gift that God gave him on how to help those who are afflicted. That's the salih. So you can continue with this conversation, but just to not go further into this, what happens when we don't attribute the gift to the giver is we become like this. We're seeing it. We start to, again, arrogate ourselves, amplify or promote our superiority, supremacy mindset, become cruel. We enjoy, the cruel, promoting the cruel suffering of others. We rationalize killing because we become addicted to wanting more and more and more. We're not thinking about brainstorming about how to help get the water to the people who cannot reach the water. That's not how our mind is working. Our mind is working in more and more and more and more and more, and makes us look good on stage to be preaching gratitude. And then we're looking off, on stage or off stage, how much following I have. And so we're sitting here doing lots of counting, and we're acknowledging the more that we have than those who are afflicted. Look at what we have, they said. Look, we've got power, we've got, networking, we got influence, we got money. That's paraphrasing, but that's literally what they said. And so what do we see come out of that mindset and cognition and delusion? We've seen it open, live streamed, cruel suffering of others, killing of others, rape, even including men. And again, nonstop oppression, persecution of others. And we're still counting more and more and more. So we confused, or maybe it's not confusion, we misrepresented gratitude as greed. So our minds are not brainstorming how to help people who are facing a famine, how to help people who have no protection, like the orphans, how to help people who are not able to reach the well. We're not thinking about how to do that. That's what Moses did. He saw that they could not reach the well given the men around them. It doesn't have to be rocks. But he used his mind and his strength to get the water to the well. We're not thinking how to do that. So our brains are not thinking about how to take the blessing God gave us and to help it reach those who are deprived. We're not seeing ourselves as the vicegerent on earth. We're not seeing our duties, our responsibilities. We're not seeing the favor God had gave us. So why should God increase us with more favors and higher vicegerency? Because that's what happened to Satan. He didn't attribute his faith to God. He said, I am better than you. He attributed it to himself. So what does he do the rest of his time on earth? He's plotting and planning. He can't directly kill, but he can instigate, incite people to kill, to do all of these things. And so we have a false understanding of gratitude, is what I'm trying to get at. That's the ending of this presentation. When you are grateful, means you attribute the blessings you have to God. You will use those blessings and brainstorm with you, with others, how to help get the water, the blessings, to those who are deprived. That's how your mind and your being and your soul will be working. And I'm going to give two examples from current day in Gaza. Here's, for example, journalists have the blessing of being able to share what's going on in the ground to others, because there are others who are not able to speak. They don't have that blessing. So here they are in the where, they're not on stage, they're in the midst of facing genocide. And they're taking that blessing that has reached them, which is they have a know-how and they have a knowledge. And they need to amplify the voices of those who are being oppressed and abused and make it reach those of influence so that they could help it end the genocide. So this is how their mind is working. You could see they're working together on how to document what is taking place on the ground and how to make it reach the minds of people that it needs to reach to stop a genocide that is taking place. This young man right here, again, didn't increase in more honor in the eyes of God. He received threats from those who are engaged in genocide to stop. He refused to comply. He was killed, and not just, his whole body was shredded into pieces for doing his job. We pray that God receives him amongst those brought near. But he was working in the face of genocide to do what? He was working to fulfill the duty and the knowledge that he had received. Try to stop a genocide, like Joseph trying to stop a famine. So this is how he was received. The date of this is October 6th, You could go and read a little bit more about how the threats that he received, him and his family, and how he ended up getting killed. And I shared this also there's also one by doctors, but this is again another individual's. He was killed. Let's see. He was killed again. And he had knowledge. And so this was also a journalist, and he was killed. And we pray that God protect Anas, But he has knowledge. God gave him something. He's using it, and he's using his full knowledge to help it reach individuals to stop a genocide, to help those who are being afflicted. So he has a knowledge that others, like the elders and those who are not, they don't have. And he's using that knowledge, he's using that gift to try to bring their voices to those who are oppressing them and smearing them and misrepresenting them. Saying, look at what's actually happening on the ground. So this is called gratitude. This is how gratitude, the display of gratitude looks like. It's not sitting down and counting your blessings and your following and your networking, followers and how much you have. And then you go on stage and you say, I'm more blessed than you. Question is, what are you doing with that blessing? Are you helping to amplify someone else's voice who's working on a project and saying, I know I have a platform, let me help amplify your project. It looks like a good project. Is that what you're doing? No, you're not thinking about how to help somebody who doesn't have that blessing. You're thinking about how to more and more and more. You're thinking about how to take and take and take and take. That's what you're thinking. How you can take what that person is writing, and then you can promote yourself with that and continue to promote yourself. And you're showcasing how this came to you from God, and you're brainstorming how to help people who are beneficial with a message to try to reach people that it could benefit. No, that's not what you're working on. You're working about how you can promote yourself on stage and get more and more and more. You're thinking about how you become more famous and more famous and more famous and have bigger following and bigger following and bigger following. That's what you're thinking about. So you confused gratitude with delusion. You focus on what you have and you want more of what you have. You're not saying, this is what I have. How can I brainstorm and see who I can amplify? Kind of like Dina Turki did she helped write a book with Ahad Tamimi. You're not thinking, I got a platform, who from amongst those? Like, let me amplify this person's voice, this journalist. This other journalist here, they tried to shut down right here. They tried to shut down his site. You're not thinking, let me amplify these voices. Let me amplify those on the ground, Met Global. They got doctors they're detained while they're helping people. Let me use that platform to help bring awareness to these individuals. You're thinking about more and more and more and more. But if you're cognizant of what you have and you're thinking about greed, how you can get more of what you have. You're not looking at those who are deprived of what you have and thinking about how I can take what I have and help it reach those who are afflicted. The path to the watering place. You're not helping to do that. So you confuse gratitude with greed and delusion. And a lot of people do that. So it goes, I want to end with what Prophet Joseph said, yet most men are not grateful. Because not all of us look at it and say, okay, I got this. How can I brainstorm and put it to its full use to benefit others? And attribute what I have to God. Because if that's how your mind and your being is working, then God will increase you in favors to be able to benefit others, not give you more and more and more, but to be benefit. Here he's benefiting 2 people in prison. Now he's going to be benefiting an entire nation. Benefit. He will give you more ability to benefit people, not misinform people, not teach people something that is not accurate, but to benefit people. We could see the benefit coming out of these individuals. You know, you saw the benefit coming here, we saw the benefit coming here. And it cost them, goes again, truth, you know, is by sacrifice. And falsehood is by money. So you're sitting here counting, and you're being, you know, you only focus on what you have, but you're not focused at all on those who don't have, because you're not recognizing these. And when God puts them in your path, you're like, yeah, great. So what's in your heart? Gratitude? Delusion? Greed? Selfishness? Kim, you know, that individual I'm referring to, she knows who she is, and I know she's going to be watching this video, sounded like this right here. She's focused on what she has. She's counting her blessings. More, give me more and more and more. But she's not in any way, shape, or form looking to see who has a beneficial message that I could use my platform, or whose voice that I can amplify to benefit. She's not thinking about how to take that blessing and help it reach others or benefit others. She's thinking about how she can promote herself more and more and more. It's not gratitude, that's delusion and greed. She didn't attribute what she had to God. She attributed to that her father's a genius. She's blessed, you know. Again, that arrogate yourself mindset. So I thank you very much. I hope you reflect on this, and next time you see something that has reached you, recognize the grace of God upon you, and then ask God, similar to what Prophet Sulaiman upon him peace said when he saw the ants. Ask God that he makes you grateful, as the prayer said, that he makes you, paraphrasing, but he makes you preoccupied with how to do good deeds with that blessing. أعمل صالحا ترضاه. You want to do a good deed that's pleasing to him. And ask God to accept it of you, and then to put you in the rank of those who are salihin, which is those who help the water reach those who cannot access the water. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.